Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro. You're here with me, your boy Donald Wonder, and my podcasting partner for a decade, the Catface Killer. Sir, welcome back.
What up, fool? Where's the boys?
The boys are here. The boys are us, man. We're back here. We're back here to talk about the most talked about superhero show in recent years. And you know what, Catface? I am sick and tired of superhero shows. Or maybe me calling this a superhero show was wrong, but it is one of the most talked about shows. I actually feel compelled to talk about this show because I had a very, very interesting and unexpected reaction to this television show. But you, my friend, you spoke about this when we watched the trailer on our podcast, the Voice of Mail podcast. We watched the trailer. You said you're actually accustomed to the original source material comic. That got me interested. I watched it. 8-episode Amazon TV series. 8 episodes, is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And now I really want to have this discussion with you guys. It's a spoiler discussion. We're going to, if you haven't seen The Boys, the Amazon R-rated TV series, spoilers ahead. We're going to spoil it. Plot spoilers. We're going to talk about it in its entirety. And the Catface is also going to talk about the graphic novel that this is based off of, the graphic novel series. So right off the bat, I always ask you this question, Catface, when we speak about these crossover mediums, you know, manga versus movie, anime versus movie. You seeing the original source material, I just want to know right off the bat, how do you feel about this adaptation?
Well, the first thing is the original source material was like the 90s. Well, I mean, depending on how far back you go at different points of the story, it's further back. But the majority of it is like the 90s going into 2000, maybe early 2000s.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a much more updated one beyond 10 years. It's like now, like right now. So that's kind of neat. I like that. I mean, there's things that were in the original run timeline-wise that you couldn't really realistically do anymore.
Right.
That was kind of sad about that. But overall, I feel good about this series, especially in comparison to the material, if that's what you're asking.
Wow. So what are you saying? You saying this TV series, I've heard this a lot. This series kind of supersedes, actually builds upon the graphic novel and actually is even more enjoyable? Is that what you're saying? Or am I jumping the gun?
I don't know if it's more enjoyable, but I do know I enjoy it. And I do know I enjoy the changes it's had more than I don't.
Well, you know what? Let's go back and start from the beginning with you then. So I want to hear about your experiences with the graphic novel before I talk about myself and the series and what you thought of it at the time, now, and obviously you've watched the series now. You thinking about it then and now before we talk about the series. What drew you about this series and the comic series, and what do you like about the show?
Well, believe it or not, the reason why I actually started reading the comic was because I read something else that was suggested to us by one of our viewers on Planet Tyro, named Kojo Wenley or something like that. But he recommended that I check out Garth Ennis' works, specifically The Crossed, which is like this. If you're talking about the zombie apocalypse and what zombies could be like, they're like a difficulty of 13 on a scale of 1 to 10. They're like super insane and difficult to deal with. And he did that. And I was really interested. I actually read all that too. That's the other Western comic book series I finished. And it was interesting enough to me, take on an old genre like that's been done to death, that I was like, okay, I'll check this out. The idea of superheroes, but they're gritty pieces of shit, you know, and then like the protagonists are actually the quote unquote bad guys. I've always kind of like Western superheroes and stuff, not super into it. I can watch it and I can enjoy it, but I'm not one of those people who are like, I gotta watch all the Avenger movies, all the Marvel movies, know everything about the Marvel DCU.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of grew out of that and into Eastern anime and manga and stuff instead.
Yeah.
But that being said, you know, I had good faith based off of reading Crossed when it came to The Boys with this specific author / illustrator, Garth Ennis. So one of the things that I really liked was I always questioned this, and this is why I didn't get into Superman. Although you told me later on about Superman, I was like, oh, that's actually an interesting character. But in a world where you have a character like Superman, I just knowing human nature, it doesn't make. And this includes like an alien nature if they look like as human as Superman does.
Sure.
They're aliens they're humans from a different world. So it just didn't sync up with what I saw in my life as what humans are, which are petty, greedy, arrogant, stupid, self-serving, conniving, plotting, and the Homelander, which is the Superman character, is the main villain, and he is all those things. Some of the things take longer to reveal than others, both in the comic and in the TV series. And it's just more interesting. It's not like guys who have an ideal, and when you think of that character, that's who you're supposed to be thinking of. It's just, they're people. Everybody's people. All the different superheroes, quote unquote, are people. The different antagonists, if you want to call them that, the seven, they're all different, which I had liked in the comic too. They changed some of them a bit up in the comic to live action, but you get my idea. Like even moving from the comic to the TV screen, these guys are all kind of different from each other in very different ways. Even though they have superpowers, and some of them are even shared in some senses, like flying. So I liked that idea, that it was like, these are superheroes in our world, that I've seen myself, and they're the way that I would imagine some asshole with superpowers would be like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what drew me into it. And throughout the whole series, whether you're talking about the comic or the TV show, it's a constant thing. It's always like that. You see everybody has their own problems that have stemmed from this whole superhero bullshit, whether you're talking about Billy Butcher or you talk about the A-Train, and I actually like the way they changed the A-Train a lot more from the comic to the TV series, because he was just kind of a one-off. The only thing that was important about that character is that he killed Robin by accident, versus in the TV show, he's actually like a person. He has his own personal problems and shit. And I like that. I like that a lot. Like, you don't really have a lot of two-dimensional characters where they're a bit character or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that makes it a good story.
The time you originally read this, was it like a breath of fresh air? Because I know even back then you said you weren't a big follower of Western comics and stuff like that. But when you read this, as you said, you found it refreshing that, this is more like what I think superheroes would be like. So would you say this, reading this comic actually even put you off watching the more optimistic Marvel and DC offerings back in the day? Did that make you feel like, well, I read some real shit, why I want to watch this optimistic comic stuff that they're just making money off of? Did it make you cynical? Because a lot of people call Garth Ennis very cynical, and he made Preacher as well, very, very dark, cynical character, and also he had a long run on The Punisher, so he seems to have a trend for very, very dark, gritty storytelling and characterization. So
to harken back to our original project, if I were to talk about who is Garth Ennis's target audience, it's seinen. Like, he's the Western version of a seinen anime or manga guy.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it really does call to me. But believe it or not, I did not read this that long ago. Because it's when I was living in my first apartment, so that would be like 2000. I want to say 15 or 16.
Right. Okay.
So in terms of, did it impact me for like the superhero genre? That's the big boom now.
Okay.
I would say not especially, but I did finish it. I'm like, yeah, that's my kind of thing versus what I see in theaters. But I don't know if it affected it a whole lot because I wasn't seeing them anyways.
Okay. Well, that I actually was excited because I thought this might have shaped your perception on superhero genre, because I think it came out in 2006 if I'm not mistaken, and obviously there wasn't even a big Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time and all this fanfare.
Yeah, although to that point, this is actually DC, because Garth Ennis does DC work, and he did another thing. What was it? He did one of the actually I've done three. I've read three Western comic series all the way to the end. I read all of Hitman by him, like the whole thing, and it's really cool because it's similar. It's more like if Marvel were to do a take on The Boys, based off of what I described, that's what Hitman is like. And it was cool seeing that. I actually think I read Hitman before I read The Boys. I liked it. You do have characters pop in like Batman or Superman show up during Hitman at different points, and it's cool to see that, in their own wholly made up thing.
Yeah.
I would say it did actually help form my perception on Western superheroes, because even up until that point, that not that far ago, I didn't have a huge concept or idea of it. I read a bunch of the Silver Age and the Golden Age comics from when I was a kid because I just happened to have them. And then that was kind of my experience with Western comics. That was it.
So let's jump to the TV series now. So first of all, I knew nothing about this property. We saw the trailer together, as I said in the beginning. Then I thought, you said it was really good. You really enjoyed it. So you're looking forward to it. And that just, you got a very, very, very high caliber taste in my opinion. You've never recommended to me anything that I thought was even mediocre. So I was quite excited to see it, and the ratings were really high. People were saying this is revolutionary, this is like even a much better version of the Watchmen, all this other stuff. So let me tell you something, man. Actually, watching this series was very, very hard for me because the writing of these superheroes is cynical to a fault. These guys are not just flawed, they're just broken.
They're pieces of shit. Yeah, they're fucking terrible people. So
watching it, and here's the thing, people talk about, oh, is it just violent? Is it gore? It's like, no, it's not that. They are so, I wouldn't even call them depraved. They're just so broken, but so believable, and that makes them so dangerous and so scary that I found it uncomfortable. And some of the things that they did was truly disgusting. Like there was one episode, everyone talks about the series, is one episode in particular. Everyone says it's the pinnacle of disgust. It's the aeroplane moment.
Yeah. But the thing, you know what, is that really was like, for me, a moment I decided I am going to finish the series no matter how bad it gets. Is they actually had, Garth Ennis actually had the courage to do his take on the superhero thing for 9/11. Like, obviously there were similarities to that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
In the plane scene on the television, but in the comics, it is specifically the 9/11 attacks. And that was something I was like, yes, I will finish this. You have earned that from me, because that's a huge risk. You know, especially that close to when it all happened. It was not even 10 years removed at that point. But there are a lot of things from the comic to the television screen that were either cut out, or I don't know if they're going to be in the television series by the end of it, that I hope are. There was a lot of the Cold War stuff, or the stuff in the 80s, war-wise, talking about Billy Butcher's backstory, because remember, they made him younger now because we moved forward in time to the present day, basically.
Yeah.
Versus over 10 years ago when it was originally told. It's just, I have faith based off what I saw, I've seen, but there's always a worry that maybe they can't do it, or they will decide, maybe it's too much, because like the 9/11 scene, like they didn't say it was 9/11 in the television series, but they did in the comic. They're like, this is fucking 9/11's attacks.
I got a lot of respect for this series because it made me feel uncomfortable, but it was all about the characters and characterization, and they were doing things. I've only experienced this storytelling with these kind of characters in two settings. Number one is DC's Injustice. Injustice is the very popular game and comic series where Superman turns evil, and something really horrible happens to Superman, and then he becomes like a tyrant. And that, I thought it was a really great take, but even watching this, I can see this is the true element of that. This is what would really happen if Superman didn't turn evil. He was that way. He
just became that way instead of somebody making him that way.
And on top of that, even me saying that these characters are broken, even the main character himself, he has when you find out about his backstory, I was like, I understand him. I don't like him. I don't appreciate him. He's a bad being, but I understand it. The writing for the story, I think, is really good. It's all about the characters. The TV series is acted well enough. I think some actors, I think on the whole, I think the actors do a really good job. Some of them, I think I could kind of take him and leave him. For example, the guy that plays A-Train, this black kid, his name is Jesse something. This is one of those actors they keep giving chances to. He's been in he was in a recent Shaft movie. He was in the Independence Day 2 movie. I don't think he's the greatest actor. I think he's just about delivers. I think another actor could have just knocked this out of the park. And I'm only harping on him because he keeps on getting really big roles for really big productions. And I think there's a lot of other actors I've seen that could do better. And believe me, I know some people be like, oh, why are you hating on this guy? This guy's getting a lot of big juicy roles. He even had a TV series of his own called Survivor's Remorse. Anyway, I kind of veered off. The other thing I read, a book series I read very recently, is called The Reckoners. The Reckoners is a series written by Brandon Sanderson that I'll talk about on the channel as well. It's about normal people who try to take down superheroes as well. It's very, very, very similar to this, which is very ironic because I just finished reading The Reckoners a month before watching this. But this is very different in that this focuses, to me, although the boys, and I guess I haven't spoken about the boys' characters in particular, to me, the boys, the superhero characters, the 7, they're so magnetic in their dysfunction that the boys themselves, these overseers that are trying to take down the superheroes by a peg or feel slighted by them for whatever reason, and the main character who's, you know, that self-insert character that is just the goody two-shoes guy who wants to do good or who feels injustice. It's all good, but I was really drawn to the 7 and their dysfunction and just watching them. And to be honest with you, it made me feel very uncomfortable. All the stuff they did, and as the series went on, it progressively got more uncomfortable, more disturbing, but more, I felt like it was naturally progressing to a believable pace. And even by the end, I know a lot of people at the end of the series thought, oh, it ended on a cliffhanger. To me, it didn't. It ended on a good.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that in the last recording.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Good. I like that point because obviously some people are like, oh, what happens next? But I'm like, no, that's enough for now. You know, I have a lot to think about after seeing that end, you know? And man, I really did. I feel, here's the thing. This show is very unique. It's not like Watchmen. It's not like the Umbrella Academy. There's so many superhero shows on television that are doing the same thing. And even this show isn't even gratuitous in what it's doing. Like, oh, it's not just violence for violence sake. I never loved Watchmen. Watchmen was another like take on the Justice League, and it was trying to be a commentary. I don't even feel like The Boys is like a commentary. I don't think it's going out of its way to point parallels to life and stuff like that. I honestly think every single superhero, 7 character are real people, really fucked up people. And the status quo about advertising and monetizing, that is definitely a commentary on capitalism and money and greed and stuff like that. But it feels very natural. It feels very, very natural, very believable, very, very raw. And by the end of it, I actually just said to myself, that's enough. I've actually watched enough. It's very intense. And I felt kind of weird. Why is this affecting me so much? But I just think, I think it's a testament to Garth Ennis' writing of really breaking down again, I don't want to say they're caricatures because I do feel like he slanted a bit more towards them being twisted.
Yeah, definitely. He does twisted characters and he does them well.
But it really does make sense to me. It's really, really magnetic. And it's very commendable. It's very, very unique. Even though they've taken elements from, you know, the Justice League and things and just twisted them, but I'm surprised. It's fresh. It really is fresh. And although I feel very uncomfortable about the narrative, I really do, because I'm like, this is really fucked up. But I really appreciate how it all comes together, how it's executed, and how it stands out against every other superhero thing I've seen. So for that, man, I really, really do see why this series is hailed as much as it has been. And the only thing I will say is I feel like this series has a short shelf life. I don't think it should go past 3 seasons. But I guess that's what I kind of defer to you in how long you think it would be compared to the graphic novel, and in light of what I just said.
It's a tough question because I have to actually tell you a lot of the key differences in a short amount of time, because I know you don't want this dragged out from comic to television series. Wow. My projection would be they cut out a lot of the going into the past stuff, which is a lot of the comic.
Right. Okay.
So if you just focus on present day, I think 3 seasons is good, maybe 4, depending on what you're doing with the plot, because the plot's changing. To that end, when I say that, when you're talking about the ending of season 1, it actually made me suck my teeth as a fan of the source material.
Really?
Because here's one of the key differences, and you're talking about the boys. Here's one of the key differences from comic to television. And it makes a lot of sense why Billy Butcher is like borderline sociopathic and very brutal and thorough, and to the point where like he wants ethnic cleansing of soups, as he calls them, or superheroes. So in the comic, he's vacationing with his wife. He himself had a rough life. He had a bad father who abused his mother, even injured her permanently. He went into the military as a troubled young man. He did his time. He learned, service work from being in the military.
Before you continue, should we just say spoilers for the comic? I don't mind. I don't really care, but just in case.
That's fine too. You can say spoilers. I mean, I don't feel like a whole lot of them are. You find out some of them fairly soon. Although, talk about Billy Butcher himself, and towards the end of what I'm saying, that's a big spoiler, I think, because they hold off telling you why he hates superhuman people so much for a long time. So what happened was he eventually finds a good girl, a good woman. They get married. They're vacationing, and the 7 happen to be in the area for something. So his wife does not have an affair on him. She is raped by the Homelander, and this is his motivation to kill the Homelander, because she, how do you tell somebody that? The world's greatest superhero raped you. So she puts it off. She doesn't know how to say it. Eventually, she writes it down like in a note or something, but it's too late because the premature fetus, being born is a very traumatic thing. We don't remember it because that's the way we're built, but the fetus is still experiencing it and everything. So it prematurely erupts from her and kills her, like how the explanation was given for what happened. Yeah. But it happens in private with Billy Butcher while they're in the hotel room. Yeah. And how there's that part where he's holding like the little infant and is spraying its laser beams from its eyes. Yeah. I actually thought that was that part, because that's what happens. He kills the premature fetus with a lamp that's right there, after it erupts from the love of his life, the only good thing he ever had. And that's how this character is born. He's born from that hatred, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense why he is the way he is.
But they changed it in the series, and I hate you.
The thing though is, I don't need Robin to be this martyr. I don't need Billy Butcher to be an avenging angel. But what I do need is, I don't need baby drama. I don't need some kind of baby drama, which is what it looks like they have set up. Yeah. Or like a love triangle thing. It's like, no, that's not what The Boys is. Yeah. Billy Butcher doesn't have to be a specific way, but he needs to not be this way. So that's one of the things that really I'm hesitant about when it comes to that cliffhanger. When you compare it to the source material, even as a story in and of itself on its own, I really don't want to see that kind of love triangle bullshit going on. So I hope like when they start the second season, they cut that shit out very fast and resolve it. I don't want to see this going on for like 2 or 3 seasons. One of the other big key differences in The Boys versus the comic to the television series is you don't learn about Vought until later on. That's like that's like the 3rd or 4th storyline they have going on. Compound V. You don't learn about Compound V until then. You know about Vought right away, but you don't find out about that until they're in a different country. Even I think they're in Russia. This is allusions and connections to the Cold War, which I don't know if they're going to be able to do in a television series in an updated sort of storyline. But That isn't so much important. What is important, and the big key difference is, all the boys have Compound V in them in the comic book series.
I thought so. I thought that I was waiting for them.
They actually go in and they fucking melee and like pick up like a lead pipe and fucking fight superheroes and shit.
Yeah.
Like in melee because they have the Compound V. Whereas in the television series, only one character for sure has it, and then one other might, depending on what they do with that character.
Yeah.
So that one, I don't know if I love it or hate it, but the story so far in the television series works for it not being such, and also it doesn't have to remain that way for the whole entirety of the series too.
Yeah, they can ramp it up. Yeah,
they can wrap up the stakes, which is actually kind of a neat idea. Instead, because in the comic book series, all the boys, when they're summoned by Billy Butcher, they already have it, and then he does not give Huey a choice. He injects it with him before he can react. Yeah. And that's very early on. That's like before they do their first snooping around even and meet, encounter their first superhero who's kind of like a mixture of Tony Stark and Batman.
Yeah.
Those are like the two really biggest changes in terms of the characters of the boys, the boy squad versus the comic to the television,
That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big. There's other things like the Frenchman is actually a pretty goofy guy, and you don't really know anything about his backstory. Everybody tells their backstory, and when he tells his, it's complete bullshit. It's super funny. Like he talks about how he had a duel with his number one arch rival, arch nemesis, and they jousted with baguettes on bicycles and stuff. And it's clearly very much bullshit, but it was very funny to read,
Of course,
it's just. But overall, you're talking about the comic to the TV series. It's the update in the timeline of the story. That's going to be really the thing that affects it the most, and what can they do with the series versus what it was, because technology was very different over 10 years ago.
So now that you seen the trailer, did this live up to your expectations? Did it meet yours? I know this has changed things, but looking at it now with season 1 done, are you like, I like this. I like what it did, because it sounds like they gave you a slightly different experience. But are you happy with the boys? I
would say, based off of season 1, like if they cut this and this is the end of the boys, they only got the 1 season, which we know is not true. But like looking at it like that, I would actually give it like a low first class.
Yeah.
I would actually like to rate it higher, but I am really super hesitant about what they presented could be a major ongoing thing that I don't want to see.
Yeah.
And that obviously that would drop my score. But if they ended on this cliffhanger, actually I would rate it higher. I'd be like, okay, that was a cool take. And I would say it actually went beyond what I was expecting, because a lot of ports from source material to the screen, they're fucking terrible. They cut out lots of stuff, and they did cut out a lot of stuff with the boys, but they did it right, I think.
Yeah. So look, man, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna give it a low first class as well. Some of the actors I didn't really like, but it's a short show. And the one thing, when you was going over everything you just mentioned about the comic versus the TV series, the one thing I really appreciated is that when I heard about the Compound V reveal and Homelander's reveal, I'm like, this show didn't hold anything back. Some of the things I thought they would hold for 2 or 3 seasons, like you mentioned, usually comes later in the comic book's life. They put it all in season 1, and I'm like, they really shot their shot with a lot of the content. And I do feel like they poured a lot of the comic, future stories, future elements in the beginning. I might be wrong, but I'm like, they gave me a lot. I felt like they didn't hold back. I feel like I know a lot about everyone, and because they put so much cards on the table, it only makes you want to watch more. Like, they didn't have to show me all that about Homelander. It didn't have to show you, the birth of the superheroes and the conspiracy and what the ultimate plan with the army, and they showed a lot. Someone that died at the end didn't have to die. They could have been around for 2 more seasons, but they really, I feel like I got like like this was 3 or 4 movies. You know what I mean? Just a lot of meat, and I really, really appreciate that. Low first class for me. So what I want to do now is me and Catface do a podcast called the Voice to Mail Podcast, and on that podcast we take in voicemails. So one of our Nuance, someone we did podcasts with. She's one of our good female friends of the show. She actually sent in a voicemail about her thoughts on The Boys, and I thought to wrap up our discussion about The Boys, why don't I play her thoughts on it, because she doesn't feel about the show the same way we do. And let's be fair, let's be fair. Let's play her thoughts, and then everyone feels different about all these shows. So do you mind if I play Nuance's thoughts?
Really fast before you do that, I actually remembered something else that was really important in terms of differences between the two. In the comic, there are super villains, in first world countries, and other countries have superheroes too. Whereas in the television series, this is a development that comes up later. Like the Seven are pretty much the end all be all, and then you have, I don't know, maybe I think it said there's like 1,000 of them or something. Whereas in the comic book series, like everybody has them, and in America, it's like a setup show. Like even though there are super villains, they're not really, they don't believe in whatever they're doing. It's a publicity stunt, and that's something also that kind of drew me in. Is when they showed that it was an orchestrated sort of theater thing. Yeah. I was like, okay, that makes sense, because I think the government are con men anyways. You know what I mean? So yeah, I did. I just remembered that, and I wanted to add that to one of the big key differences between the two before we moved on.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So we're going to play Nuance's voicemail. I think it's about 3.5 minutes, and then we'll just say our last little words. But there's not much more to say. Yeah, let's have a listen to Nuance.
Hey guys, I hope you're cool. I hope you guys are doing well. Loving the podcast as always, and the content. This is Nuance here. I just wanted to send you a message about the series The Boys that I know everybody's dribbling and gaggling over, and I just wanted to give you my opinion on it. I watched it, and what can I say? For me, I felt it was super strong. I know people may be thinking it's super unique and what a different dimension of the anti-hero or villains, basically, because there ain't no anti-heroes in there, just villains. For me, I thought it was super strong. And I didn't really feel like at points it was necessary to be that crazy. I don't even really think it's that unique, because of the fact that for those of us who like to listen or read audiobooks, there's a series called The Reckoners, which is quite similar to this. This series to me is a mixture of the book, like I said, the series called The Reckoners by Brandon Sanderson, and Watchmen. So for me, and because I feel like I'm a little bit superheroed out anyway, with everything that's been going on recently, I just kind of felt like there was just a lot of shock value in it for me. And you know what? Even though what I will say is it definitely shows what the world would be like in today's day and age if people did have superpowers. It was just too much. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a world full of villains. It was a hard slog to get through for me. I know some people are going to be like, it was amazing and blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to do no spoilers. And it was interesting, but even with the character development and some of the people that were chosen to play major roles, I just didn't feel like it was that forward thinking, that I didn't feel enlightened, or didn't feel like I was seeing a new dimension of what it would be like to be in the world like that. And in regards to the heroes, if you want to call them heroes, the boys, I just kind of feel like in a world like that, what they were doing was a bit unrealistic. There was a lot of realism, like I said, as what it would be in a world like that in 2020 or 2019. But also with that, there was also a bit of unrealisticness in regards to the hero side, in my opinion. So yeah, if I was gonna rate it, I'd rate it a watchable, but I don't really feel like I'm gonna be watching season 2. It's not really for me. If you haven't seen anything like that before, you haven't read anything like that before, you haven't watched anything like that before, you haven't watched Watchmen and things like that, you might be like, wow, bam, this is great. But if you have, it's just, again, the same kind of thing to me. That's just being...
Yep, so I just cut it off a bit there because we'll be a bit short for time. There was one other thing, we're not all going to agree. That's why I wanted to play an opposing opinion. But there's one other thing I nearly forgot this series did that I thought goes against. They did one element in this series, comic and TV series, I believe, that is a rule that I don't think any comic series are allowed to do, and they don't do it on purpose. That is mixing religion with the superheroes.
Oh yeah.
If you notice, these DC and Marvel and all the other, they will go out of their way to kind of separate the two. But I love the way that they dive in with this, and the superheroes use that to their advantage, because that's another thing, a pivotal thing. I think any realistic superhero would do. They would use that to their advantage. Why wouldn't they use religion to as propaganda to help perpetuate their own persona? Hell yeah, they would do that. And I love the fact they did that. And in the series, when I saw that, when they went to that church festival thing, the way they were doing that with all that propaganda, I thought, I've never seen this done before. They would never, ever, no superhero company would never want to mix religion with superheroism at all.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. That's one of the things that actually drew me into, because that's like that character in the comic, the church dude, and that whole setup to that event, it runs through the comic for a little bit, but I think that's actually like in the second half of the series. But it's something that also is like, wow, this is a different take on, you know, religion and superpowers and stuff. Like, you don't even really have that in anime and manga. Like, that's something that they kind of keep separate too.
Yeah.
You know, even though they have superhero series and stuff, or they have been doing like basically superheroes with superhero powers in our quote unquote world. You know, they've always avoided that too. It's a fresh idea. It was really cool.
Yeah. So I will definitely be looking forward to The Boys season 2. I actually do. It made me very uncomfortable, but it's very thought-provoking, very, very well executed, and it makes sense. It makes sense. It's a breath of fresh air in this oversaturated time of superhero genre stuff. So I'll be like everyone else, giving my seal of approval, but I am very, very happy you recommended this to me, and I'm not really surprised that it's just set in waves. The only thing I wish is that it was a Netflix show, because it being on Amazon, it's not getting as much love, because Amazon's like a second-rate streaming service. Everyone thinks, I buy my groceries and electronics from Amazon. I don't watch my TV shows there. But they've got a winner. This is Amazon's big, heavy hit winner. They haven't had a hit like this ever. So they are milking this.
It's definitely getting them subscribers, and I'm one of those people. I actually subscribe to it just because of The Boys.
And you got Amazon Prime too, so yeah. So yeah, The Boys, guys, you've probably seen this. We always talk about this kind of, it's in our wheelhouse. So I really wanted to throw my 2 pence in about this and give credit where credit's due. Yes, everyone's loving and falling over the show, as Nuance has said, but I think with good reason. And I battled with myself if I actually like this, because I really was like, this is making me feel all sorts of uncomfortable, and it's disturbing, but it's thought-provoking. It is a commentary in many different ways, commentary against other superhero stuff, and it's I think it's just very thought-provoking in for better or for worse, and it's good for a medium to challenge itself, and that's what this thing does. And I definitely celebrate and champion that. And that's why I give this first class, low first class. And I'm hopeful. I just hope it doesn't run on forever. It should really just have 2, 3 or maximum 4 seasons, in my personal opinion. But guys, listening, what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you watch The Boys? Do you think we're overpraising it? Do you think it is pretty interesting? Did you hate it like Nuance or whoever? Guys, we don't always have to agree. Share your thoughts down below. And yeah, Catface, I really appreciate you pointing this one out to me. And yeah, we'll talk about season 2, I guess, if we watch it in a year or so. They're filming season 2 right now.
Yeah, they are. You know what? Something that you forgot about in that last spiel right there?
What's that?
You can always send us a voicemail at voiceofmail.com.
Yay.
Even for our reviews and discussions here at Planet Tyro. We would love that.
Yeah.
Feel free.
That's where you can find us. If you're watching this video, listening, and you're thinking, where are you guys? Why don't you guys upload more? We're always on our sister project, the Voice of Mail podcast, where we talk about everything we're doing, life, society, news, commentary. We do it all there every other week. Me, Joe Lee, Stanley, and the Catface Killer, and guests. So guys, go over there, support us on Patreon. All links will be in the description, but you can go to voiceofmail.com. And let's not forget, I know you're going to say this anyway, the Catface himself has got his own project, The Green Banana, guys. Oh boy, where can they find you, and where can they get more information on that project?
You can find our Twitch TV channel at green.voiceofmail.com. You actually set that up for us, which I'm very appreciative of.
No problem, no problem.
Way easier to say than Green Banana Guys at Twitch, blah, blah, blah. So you can also find me personally on Instagram and Twitter at Night Parrot, spelled with a K. That's my gamer tag. I think that's what they call it. Is that what kids call it? Gamer
that's
tag?
What they do. That's what they do, yeah.
Yeah, so I set that up to be my gamer tag, or I mean the same as my gamer tag. Catch me there or at voicemail.com.
Yeah, guys. So again, leave a comment. Thanks for all the subscribers. And eventually, you know, we do want to do more Planet Tyro stuff, but it's all about time. We got to split our time on the things we love. So find us over at voiceofmail.com. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sticking around with us here on Planet Tyro. And we'll see you on the next recording.
See you guys around. Hope to hear some voicemails from you guys too. We'd love to get some of our people from here to over there.
Definitely. Thanks for listening.